same presentation. She stood up here with me. And there's power in the two of us being up here, because when I did it with Haley at her home, it's that feeling of you're a little nervous. You don't know quite what to say, and you just work together to give the presentation. Now, Dr. Kathy likes to talk like I do, so we work real well together. But I want her to tell what happened recently when she didn't know I was coming.
What?
So, yes, I was, yes. Yes. And she said, well, you tell us.
We try to do a presentation once a month up in Cumming, and we've been using the Keller Williams real estate office because they have this nice big classroom. And so I got there, you know, and Debbie and John always bring the board. So, of course, where was mine? It was at my office. So I get in there, and there's John. John says, well, do you have your board? And I said, well, no. He said, well, it's a good thing I've got the right cards in the trunk. I said, yes, it is. I said, well, where's Debbie? He goes, oh, well, she's not going to be here. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? Because I'm so accustomed to working with her as a team. And it was weird because we never rehearsed it. When she did a presentation at my office, it was like totally unexpected. Okay, Dr. Kathy, you get up here too with me. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to do? And I'm comfortable talking about things chiropractically, and I'm comfortable talking about, you know, getting people well and how you get healthy and about exercise and all these other things, but this, I didn't want to do it wrong. And so she said, well, just tell them about your experience. So I said, okay. So I opened up my mouth, and, you know, words just started coming out. I never plan in advance what I'm going to say. I just let my innate intelligence go to work.
And so were you telling your experience?
Yeah, and so I was telling the experience. So, yeah, exactly. So anyway, so we were sitting there like that last month, I guess it was. Yes. And I'm like, oh, my God, you know, I don't know what to do. So I just opened my mouth and let it come out. Now, to me, it seemed like a very discombobulated, you know, uneasy, uneven presentation. It did not feel like it flowed well from my perspective. And I had to move from this side to this side, so I made sure I contacted, you know, with everyone in the room. And it just felt very bizarre, and I felt like a piece of me was literally missing that day. So I encourage you to use someone, you know, as a part of the presentation. It makes a big difference for them to talk about their personal experience with the program. People I invited a lot of them have known me when I was a child, when I was a nurse, since I've been a doctor. For people who've known me all my life, I have no validity as an expert on anything. You know, I know absolutely nothing. And we'll do it just to get her off our backs, you know, but we really don't think she knows what she's talking about. And I find that when you have it was interesting because these people are not professional people that we were talking to. But because Debbie is not a nurse, not a doctor, they resonated with her better than they did with me. Because she's not in there lecturing them every time they're in the door about what they need to change and what they need to do and why they need to do it, and do you remember your goals and all of that. I tend to be sometimes a little bit hardline with my patients, but they responded really well to her. And we had 100% that night who were like so eager, they were, you know, couldn't wait to get to the order forms and do it. So it really does make a big difference when you're hitting your warm market, I think, to have that extra person that's telling a story and telling about the program. They're really hearing that person more than they are you.
Will you tell your story?
Oh, my story. Okay. When I worked at Grady, I was a trauma nurse, and one of the residents, this is back in the 80s, had become involved with Medifast, and it was some of the doctors who said, this is a great way for you to make some extra money. His wife was expecting a baby, and it turned out to be triplets, and he was like frantic about the finances. So he started doing the Medifast, and of course he had everybody in the hospital. We were all on it. At that time, I only needed to lose about 15 pounds, and all they had were the most god-awful tasting shakes you have ever put in your mouth. They were foul. There was vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate. And I mean, this was not even good chocolate. You know, and that's all you got. 4 times a day were those shakes, nothing else. You could not eat any food. It did put you into significant ketoacidosis. You had to have blood work monitored every week, but the weight came off really fast. But the piece that's missing, or was missing from the program, was there was no transition period, there was no maintenance program, there was no teaching you about eating healthy, there was no 6 times a day. Now, as a doctor, I mean, I've had a lot more intensive physiology classes than I ever had as a nurse, but even as a nurse, I knew that blood sugar was dependent on being fueled if you wanted it to stay level. Your sugar is like the fuel of your car. You gotta fuel your body or you aren't gonna work so well. You know, the brain doesn't work so well, the body doesn't work so well. It's the same thing. And when you skip meals or when you don't eat often enough, you're not really fueling the body. So, you know, and I knew that something was missing, but I really never took time to put it all together back then. So, you know, it kind of went by the wayside, didn't see it any in the 90s, didn't even think about it in the 90s. I have a granddaughter who has Down syndrome, and her weight had begun escalating significantly. She was up to 235 pounds back in June, and her endocrinologist's solution was for her to go on Ally. Now, that'll give her diarrhea and block the fat, but she's a growing child, and there is a certain amount of fat that children need. So I didn't think that was a good solution, and I was looking at Nutrisystem, because I thought, well, it'd be convenient, it'd be, you know, get it to the house, it had pasta, which she's addicted to, and I thought maybe that would work, but it was very cost prohibitive, and I was trying to figure out how we were going to work all of this. And I met Harriet and Pam Smith at a networking function back in June. And when they passed around the little book, I thought, I wonder what this program is that they're health coaching about. And I whipped it open and I said, oh my God, it's MetaFast. Ding went the bell. And I thought, I had not remembered, you know, really had forgotten about it, didn't know it was even still around. So Harriet and Pam both came to my office, I think the following day, and met with me. And of course, you know, chiropractors are quite the purists. You know, we don't believe in packaged food, and we sure don't advocate soy, let me tell you. So I said, I just don't know about this. You know, this is stuff I tell people not to do. And so they gave me some information, and I did some research and found that the soy is not genetically modified, that it's washed, it's clean, and so forth. The estrogenic compounds are not a part of the amino acids. And I thought about it, and I said, well, you know, my patients and myself are not always eating as healthy as we should. I didn't eat packaged food anyway, but my patients eat crap. And I knew that this was a step forward, because to get them from here all the way over to here, that seems like an impossible step. I mean, it's a hard thing to do. And I thought, you know, the benefits of this packaged food outweigh any risks of packaging food. So I said, okay, I'll try it. So I went on it, put my granddaughter on it. I've lost 60 pounds. My granddaughter has lost 45 pounds. She gets on the scale and goes, yahoo, you know, like this when she gets very excited. The school has been wonderfully cooperative in helping us. We send plenty of food to school. She's making very good choices herself when it comes to her lean and greens. You know, the school food is just the most non-nutritious stuff I've ever seen. But when they have like chicken strips or whatever they have, she says no bread. She tells them no bread. She eats the chicken, she gets a salad, and she usually gets a piece of fruit. I mean, that's all they get. So she does tomato soup or the hot chocolate or a brownie or whatever, and they fix it in the classroom. So it's been great for her. So that is not an impossible thing for a child who's in school who needs to be on a 3 and 3. It can be done. I started working as a health coach accidentally. That did. I thought, well, you know, I'll be on the program in 2 or 3 months, really have great success, and then I'll become a health coach. And I was on the program 2 weeks, wasn't it, Lou? And Lou walks in the office and she goes, aren't you eating lunch kind of late? She goes, what is that? That smells really good. It was chicken noodle soup. And I said, well, I'm on a special program now. I'm eating every 3 hours. And she said, well, you've lost some weight. I said, yeah, about 10 pounds. And she goes, I want to do what you're doing. And I mean, I'm like, I didn't know what I was doing, and I'm trying to set her up, you know. And so I'm calling Harriet. What do I do? How do I set her up now as a client? And she goes, but I want to be a health coach too. And I went, oh my God, I don't know how to tell you how to do that. I said, we're going to have to call Harriet and Pam and Debbie, you know, help. So, and Lou started, and she went gangbusters right away. She started doing lean and green at home, and her husband had to eat lean and green. He started losing weight. He goes, well, let me try one of these bars. And so he went on the program. How much now, Mike? 50 pounds. Okay? So, and it has just gone from there. So, you know, people think that doctors have a ready-made, you know, available audience for the program. And yes, you've got those people, but it doesn't mean that they're where that you want them to be.